everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson with Dingo and the Coach. I am Dingo, and this is the coach, Steve Ellis. And Steve, our next guy is a guy that we know very, very well from our high school days, classmate of ours, and was a really damn good tennis player. And it's
Yes.
going to be great catching up with Fred Krase.
Well, it's been too long. I'm glad we can catch up with him, but I'm glad we can go back over his tennis career. To talk about how good he was because we all know what kind of a fun guy he was.
Absolutely. We get to hang out with him. So, as we said, joining us is Fred Krase. And Fred, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, what's happening?
Hey,
Good
man.
to see good to see you guys through the Zoom here.
That's right.
Yes, it is. That's good. So, as we
Yeah.
always do these before, we always talk about where you've grown up and let everybody know what side of. I think I already know what side of what you're on the good side. So we'll just go let everybody know what side of Anderson you grew up in.
Oh,
Yeah, I grew up on the side with a Loisdale, Lois View, Denallen, all those sides, and it was definitely the more fun side to me. Good time.
Yeah, the good old Summit side, man.
there
It
you
was the
go.
best.
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Talk a little bit about that growing up as a kid, because I know in my Summit days it was phenomenal. Everybody was outside from the morning sun until late at night. Everybody was out. The parents were always outside. So talk a little bit about growing up for you as a kid in Summit.
Yeah, it was awesome, like you said. I mean, it was like the night times you're playing kick the can or,
Yep.
getting up in the mornings. A lot of times we would play football before the bus would come. I lived caddy corner from like Don Marcello and Steve Green, which,
Nice.
growing up with those guys, and it's just a lot of a lot of shenanigans that
Yeah,
we
of course it was.
So, growing up in Summit, when did you start getting involved in sports, and was tennis your only sport?
Yeah, I moved over to Summit like around second grade, so we
From
came
where?
over from. We were living in Michigan at the time,
Oh, okay.
and so we moved there. My dad had a transfer and got into Summit, and it was just as far as starting out there, it was nice. We came about halfway into the school year, and then just started meeting. There was all kinds of kids, like everywhere. I mean, even down our street, we had like Greg Thomas, Bill Ramirez, Dave Stubenrock. There's a bunch of people that were up and down that whole row. And then Allen, we had like Jimmy Diana and Buzz Coolman and
That's
Yeah.
right.
stuff. So there was just a lot of good people to hang out with and play a bunch of sports. It was fun.
Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the other thing too that was awesome about that was the Summit Swim Club. I know our family was a big part of it in years. We'll get into that a little bit later, but Summit
Okay.
Swim Club was pretty awesome.
Yes, it was. I liked Summit Swim Club. That was a good time.
Yes, it was.
So one of the reasons why we wanted to get you on here and brag about you is your high school career. But let's talk about how you started out playing tennis. How old were you, and where were you playing?
Yeah, I started probably like seriously like about 12 years old. Um, Kind of like when the tennis craze was going on in the late 70s or whatever. I was about 10 and would hit it occasionally with my parents and stuff, but never
Okay.
really did much with it. But once I got about 12, I started doing a little bit of organized stuff and just clinics and things like that. It became fun, just hitting with other kids and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it. And then shortly after that, tried a tournament or two, and that's when kind of got the bug a little bit. So
So where would you play tournaments at?
they were kind of like everywhere. We started off like just like he said, Summit Swim Club. There would be little things there.
Okay.
Um, oh, I also like my parents had a tennis membership over at Old Coney, so we would play over there, and they'd sometimes have little tournaments. And then as it got a little bit better, I would play the city tournaments down at Lunkin Airport, and that was always nice because there was a wide variety of people from other areas, not just like our local little Anderson area and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
that's
So
good. Yeah. So
yeah,
was there anybody that back then that you would imitate? Was it Jimmy Connors? Were you a Pat? You John McEnroe.
You know, it's funny. You nailed it right off the bat. I was always the Jimmy Connors guy starting off,
Yeah.
and then actually as I got a little bit older and a little bit crazier, I kind of fell in love with McEnroe later on.
Yeah.
But Connors was the one I would like to emulate because he was on under 6 feet tall. You
Yeah.
know, he was a scrappy guy. He just kept digging and running things down. And at that point in time, I didn't have like, you know, much of a power game. So like a lot of my game was on speed and tracking stuff down and pissing people off by getting a lot of balls back and things like that. So that's where it kind of came. And then actually through when you said Jimmy, it was kind of funny because the ATP tennis tournament, or which is what
Yeah.
Western Southern or whatever
Yeah.
now. You know, I did a lot of ball boying and water boying, got to do a lot of his matches. So it was really a thrill for me, you know, getting to do that. And in fact, one day we were walking out as my dad picked me up to from the ball boys tent side. The players' cars would be in the same area that you'd get picked up in. And we bumped into Jimmy out there, and I happened to have a camera, as I often do. and I handed him to my dad, and he snapped a picture when we were, you know, as a real little
That's
guy.
awesome.
And yeah, it was real cool. But then it was funny because the picture comes back, and there's just this cloud in front of the two of us, and I was like, the hell's that? And I realized my dad was always a smoker, and he'd have that cigarette here as he's taking the picture. But which actually makes the picture a little more special now that, you know, he's gone and stuff. So.
Well, Jimmy Connors, he got all the girls too, right? He got all the women.
Well, if he did, I didn't. So.
I thought you were.
I was trying to emulate him. I was trying.
So when you did play tennis, I mean, did you play other sports while you were playing tennis when you were growing up, or was it just strictly tennis?
No, baseball was actually my, you know, first love. Again, my dad, he was a AAA baseball player in the Cleveland Indians organization.
Nice.
Made it up to AAA. Never got that last jump, but you know, just I was always like a fan of that. Of course, even though I wasn't on the Big Red Machine, I liked watching the games.
Yeah.
You know, we lived down there and got to go to a bunch of games because, you know, his company had some tickets, so occasionally he'd get to take me, and it was just always my favorite. And then, you know, fortunately with tennis, you know, I started improving, and baseball, you know, I was decent, but I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to get very far, like as far as trying to get scholarships for, you know, down the road. And so I just kind of gravitated more towards tennis because unfortunately the two seasons collided for when you got into school. So.
Right.
So let's go back. We said we're going to get into the Summit Swim Club tennis days, and I know before we got this podcast all set up, you had mentioned that you had played with the big guy there, my dad.
Yeah.
At the swim club, and I know my dad always thought he was either John McEnroe or Jimmy Connors, and he was more like I don't know. Think of the worst tennis player you could ever think of. My dad was not as good. Talk a little bit about, you know, playing at the Summit Swim Club, you know, and just all the you know, I remember the adults playing in a match play type thing. So talk a little bit about that, and your parents also playing there.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. They had a lot of those nice get-togethers that they would set up little, like, I don't know if they're just weekender tournaments for the adults and stuff, but it usually revolved around a keg of beer.
Yes.
And the guys would be playing their matches, and, you know, I was younger and be hanging out and just like to be over there and try to steal some sips of beer from my dad or whatever. And then as they would get done, a lot of times they were real nice about letting me jump out there and hit some balls with them and stuff like that. And your dad, yeah, he was great. He always had that great laugh, and he'd like to razz you while you're on the court and trash talking before the time and stuff. And yeah, he was funny. He would get the ball back though. I mean, he was like a scrappy little dude.
Yeah, he thought he was good though. That's what killed me.
I don't know if it would go good, but he was definitely he was competitive.
Capable. Let's put capable. Yeah. He was capable.
There you go.
That's a good one. But, you know, the other thing too, I think that, and you might have, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I do remember you and I and Chris Berger and Scott Berger and God, there was a whole bunch of them. We did like a turn, you know, you and I'd be on a team.
Yeah.
If you and I won 6-1, we got 6 points, and you would switch teammates. Do you remember playing in that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. They would kind of tally everything up, like you would switch partners, and if you won the match 6-2 or whatever it was,
Yeah,
you'd get six, the other person would have two, and then they would go and try to
right.
accumulate more points. And that was always a good time. I mean, it's just a good way to, like, challenge yourself and try to accumulate those points. We're all competitive guys
Yeah.
and like to try to score as
Well,
many points as you could. So
I just remember Chris Berger was like John McEnroe. He was like a little baby, man. He playing with his racket, get pissed. He would throw stuff. He just. I remember he was just like that all the time. So I'm sure Chris will love me telling that story. I'm sure.
well, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree from his dad. Skip was a funny one too. He used to be in those groups a lot of times that
Yep.
would play on
Yeah.
Summit as well. I just remember he used to wear the big headband and
Yes.
stuff when he'd
Yes.
go out and play. So
Yeah.
yeah, he was a good one. But I liked his dad, Skip. I enjoyed talking with him, and he also would run out to that
The beer.
ATP tennis tournament, the ATP tennis tournament. And a lot
Yeah.
of times he'd actually let me catch a ride with him, and he'd have some funny stories to tell from
Yeah.
that.
Skip was a
So
great guy, man. Great guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's get into high school, Fred. So
Sure.
you get into high school and you had talked about, you love baseball, but you made a decision that you're going to play tennis
Hmm.
because you were having some success with that. So you obviously had success. It was a great decision. Let's get into your 4 years, your freshman year when you got to Anderson. What were you thinking? What were your thoughts then, and who was the coach?
Yeah, our coach was Terry Erdman, who I believe is one of the math teachers at the time,
Yeah,
and he probably was one of those deals where he liked working with the kids or whatever, but also probably a way to make some extra money. But
He
he
was.
also yeah, but the thing was I don't think he ever picked up a tennis racket in his life, but he did try to read a lot of stuff about it, and he did like try to organize things in a good
Yeah.
way. So I do have respect for him in that manner, and he was one that told me early on, when I was over there or when I was going to school there, because I really did, like, at that point I was getting that competitive mode, and I did want to be the best player there. And he was telling me that he goes, well, from what I can tell on all these past records and stuff, no one's gone to states at Anderson as in singles for instance. And I again, I don't know if that was true or not, but like I was going by that. So I was hoping to you know to try to accomplish that. That was one of my main goals
yeah.
there.
Do you remember who was some of the upperclassmen, like your freshman year, that were playing?
Yeah, we had John Cardarelli, who was a nice
Yeah.
player. He started off actually the very first year. He played number one for us. Um, we'd have some tight challenge matches, but he got the nod that first year being older, so that was kind of expected. And then Dave Lymanstaw, he
Yeah,
was a nice player. Then we had actually a little bit later on that was, I believe your guys' class was Leslie Corey,
Yeah.
and she was kind of ahead of her time because she got injured in her in one of her women's seasons, so she couldn't play, and got a special exemption to play on the guys team with us. And
wow.
we loved having her because she was an awesome player. I
He
mean,
was good.
she wound up eventually playing like number two for us and had a good record and a lot of fun to hang out with for sure.
You had Tom Shingleton too, I think,
Tom
didn't you? Tom
Shingleton.
Shingleton.
Tom Shingleton is there.
Yeah,
Kenny Shelton, Todd Brown,
Kenny
David
Shelton, that's right.
Taylor. Trying to think if I'm missing anybody.
That's
There's
some
got to
good.
be a few. Well, we eventually got my buddy Rick Shea on the team from too. That was
Rick
another one.
They, they
Yeah,
even got a they even
yeah.
got a picture of him in a yearbook, I think, in tennis. Still.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got to go back and check that one out.
Was Urban the coach all 4 years?
Yes, yeah, he
Okay.
was.
All
Yeah.
right. So let's
Yeah.
review this, Fred, so that
Hmm.
everybody can get an idea of what type of a career you had. What a great career. So your
Hmm.
freshman year,
Hmm.
you're coming in and you have a 20-6 record. and you're the team MVP of the whole team, and you made the districts, which is incredible. Your
Hmm.
sophomore year, you're 21 and 11, your first singles, and you made the districts again, and once again you're the team MVP, freshman and sophomore
Yeah.
year. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Junior year, 23 and 8, first singles. You're the team MVP for the third consecutive year, and you're the player of the year in the league, and you made it to the districts again. Incredible.
Yeah.
Senior year, no slacking off here. 24 and 4. So you're the team MVP for the fourth consecutive year, the player of the year back-to-back years, district champion, and the first player in the Anderson history, as you talked about, to go to state, which is just incredible. And Danny and I have been doing this for 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
now, and without question, I mean, being the team MVP 4
4 years.
years in a row, that's never happened in any
That's
sport, and may never ever happen again.
Yeah, and that to me right there, all that right there, all those stats, that's Hall of Fame. I
It,
mean that should you should be in the Hall of Fame at
Thanks.
Anderson. I mean
it,
that is some
I appreciate
unbelievable
that.
stats, and to have somebody that's MVP for 4 years in a row. If all these stats don't scream, Hall of Fame at Anderson High School, I don't know what does.
yeah.
So I think that I'm glad that people are going to get to watch us to kind of see what kind of tennis player you were, because you're probably one of the best tennis players in Anderson High School history.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Yeah, at least until Ray Fuentes came around, he was a hell
He
of a
was pretty
player.
dang good too.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
definitely in the conversation.
Yeah.
It's hard to,
Yeah.
the stats don't lie, as they say. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really incredible, Fred. Congratulations. That's a great career.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's get into the life after college, obviously with the big career that you had at Anderson High School, and talk a little bit
Mhm.
about what that was like for you. Because I know a lot of people, recruiting was different back then in the day that it is now. There's no NIL money, there's no stuff. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the path that you did, if you did get recruited, and where you ended up going.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a lot of MAC schools, Mid-American Conference schools. That was kind of what I had my mind set out, was originally Big Ten, but I wasn't good enough quite to get in there. A couple would offer me to like try to walk on, but I didn't really want to do that because I really could have used the money for the scholarship money.
Yeah.
So the Mid-American schools, at least, there was some money to be had there. And then some smaller schools as well, but I really, again, just kind of really had my mindset on Division One and thought it would be cool to be in Division One. So that's kind of where I was looking at the time. Yeah, no NIL money back then, but it was funny. I do remember like going to like Ball State. I just thought it was so amazing that the coach would give us some beer money to go out. He wouldn't go out with us at that point. He would give it to the players, and the players would go, and he goes, "Yeah, get some beer, some pizzas, have some fun,
Oh, that's
whatever."
awesome.
Wow.
And I thought that was like NIL, man. I thought I hit the jackpot. And
That's
then
definitely an
yeah,
eye.
oh no,
I
I'm
talk
sorry.
about that, about like just like me, I don't know, and I'm sure Steve probably doesn't
What?
either, the how the whole college tennis scene goes, and how many teams, how many people do you have on a team, matches,
Yeah,
how does that all like correlate, and how many people are on a team?
yeah. Typically for our tennis at that time, there was 1 through 6 singles, and then you'd have 3 doubles. And at that point in time, you could usually play both. So I would play usually between like 5 and 6 for Ohio University when I went there, and in singles, and then would team up with somebody and usually play your second or third doubles. And that was it was nice back then because you were just playing so much. It was a lot of running around, a lot of sports, and stuff, which I enjoyed, which was again just a lot of fun doing it.
So did you wear batting gloves when you played because it was so damn cold?
I tell you, the place that was the coldest was up there at Anderson on that hill in March.
yeah.
I bet.
When we would play up there, it was the wind. We had some wind screens, but I don't think they were the way that the wind would go. And
Yeah.
so we had a lot of side wind, which actually kind of played into my favor because a lot of times, I knew how that wind would go, and these guys would come in and they'd have no clue, and they'd be all freaking out when the wind would blow the
Home
ball
court
all over the
advantage.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it worked out good. But yeah, but as far as it goes, like then we actually used to play the doubles out. Like I think I've heard now that they play like a pro set or something for doubles, and so there's not quite as much in today's where they play the extra tennis from what I understand. So
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Where we at? I'm just kidding.
Just knew he was going to do this,
we're
Brad.
we're having just a great
No.
time. Can't you look over his shoulder and see what his
Well,
name
you know what I was doing? I was kneeing him over here underneath the table, and he did this on
Yeah.
purpose because he likes to do that to me.
Yeah.
I mean, he just
So Fred, one of the things that and I can speak for Danny for sure is that we've kind of gotten off of playing the sports the last decade or so. But are you still involved in playing tennis?
Yeah, I actually been real fortunate. I've had a great group of guys up here in Cleveland area, and we do like there's leagues, but there's also permanent court times. So at this point, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, every single Tuesday, Thursday, I still play.
Really?
Occasionally on
Nice.
Sunday. Yeah, still occasionally on Sundays as well. And it's just a lot of fun because now it's more of a camaraderie and stuff and having some fun.
Well, let me ask you, and I don't want to disrespect you at all,
Mhm.
but have you gotten involved at all with pickleball?
I have played it a couple times. It was twice with my on my mom's side of the family with all the little siblings over there during Christmas time, and then this one guy that's a real good pickleball player. He was trying to get me involved just so he'd have somebody else to play with, and I'm trying to hold off on it for now. It's a great sport. Anybody who wants to get out there and do it, I encourage it because anybody can go out there and swing it and have fun.
Yeah.
And it is fun. It's just a different kind of swing and everything else. I don't want to mess up my stroke.
Isn't it kind of like a biggie size ping pong, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, that's exactly right. I mean, it's just and it's like what's funny is I've always been worried about like getting hurt playing tennis, but knock on wood, I've had relatively good health on the court. But I've heard more of these pickleball injuries are the 40 to 60-year-olds getting out there and blowing out ACLs because it's a low sport. You're bending those knees more than most people are.
Yeah,
we're out.
The one thing I do want to know, if you're playing tennis still, do you pull your socks up to your knees, and do you have a wood racket and the John McEnroe headband?
I don't anymore, but I do miss pulling up those tube stocks, like different colors up pretty high. But and I do miss the short shorts.
Short shorts.
Yeah.
I
do, yeah.
I do too. I'm not kidding.
So, Fred, let's talk about where you live now, what you do, and your family.
Okay. As of right now, I've lived up in Cleveland since about '95.
Okay.
And married Jody Martz at the time. She's an Anderson girl, so I married an Anderson girl, and we've been up here like almost 30 years, getting up there now. I got two boys. One is working at a place called Welcome to the Farm. He's also trying to take some nursing school classes. And then my oldest son, Justin, he's in Charlotte, North Carolina. He just moved out there. He's working marketing and doing a good job out there.
Nice. He's the rapper, right? He's the rapper.
He's our little rapper, Jay Cuzzo. Check him out on Spotify. He's got some killer videos.
I've seen a couple of those, but it sounds like everything's going well for your family. And thank you to, I don't know which one it was of your boys. I don't know if it was Jay Kezo or whatever his name is that helped
Peyton.
with the beat there. Yeah, helped us out. So appreciate
that.
That
was PJ Peyton helping us out.
PJ appreciate it helping out. So one couple last things. Do you still keep in touch with a lot of your guys from high school?
Yeah, I still keep in touch with like Rick Shea, Dave Shea. I'm working for Dave Shea's company. His father had started it, and I'm working for him, which is actually out of Cincinnati, and just doing sales up here. And then well, Steve Green, Don Marcello, I still bump into those guys and talk with them a lot. So yeah, I mean, it's nice. And then of course with Facebook, you see them get a chance to, mess around with some of the people on there as well. So it works out pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But so getting ready to wrap this thing up, and one of the things that we always love to reminisce with everybody is giving their favorite high school memory, maybe their favorite college, and then maybe a favorite teacher or not. So what was your favorite high school memory?
High school memory would definitely just be like after your guys' football games and stuff like that, hanging out those bleachers, and then as soon as it was done, going off to wherever the next party was going to be and find out who was going to have it. Anything could happen. It was always like so exciting. You never knew what would happen that night. So you always hated when those football seasons and basketball seasons would end because it was always nice to win those games. It was always a good excuse to get out of the house.
Well, hey, and so we're talking about parties.
I
just want to throw this out. Like,
sure.
There was a big party that was at our house. And there's a lot of controversy going around in our family that how did you get invited to this party? Because this might solve the mystery of whose party this was.
I'm not sure about that. I do not remember.
All I can tell you is
I'm having a senior moment.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
They did fingerprint, and it was on the broken banister that was going upstairs that broke off the wall.
Fred, we had dining room table chairs break. We had the banister going down the basement break, and brand new carpet in our house, and someone put cigarettes out in the thing, and then to top it all off, we had a brick go flying through the window.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a smoker, so I will deny that one. Anything else, I'm not sure about.
So you're saying Teresa threw the party then, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, I would not throw her under the bus. She is a great person. She was probably working out like she always is.
Yeah,
she probably was not. She was probably not around the house that night. She was lifting weights.
Fred, whatever. Fred, I don't know.
I do miss your guys' house. I will say that. It was a fun time.
So do we.
Okay, we'll let that one slide. But give us your college and then your favorite teacher.
College at OU is just ridiculous. I mean, there's just too much over there to even. Yeah, I mean, that could take a whole other show. No, but but Halloween's there are off the charts, like everybody knows. I mean, the costumes that people come up with are amazing, and it's just a wild scene, especially back then, because it was like like they did draw like back then like 20 to 25,000 on Little Court Street, and it was like the overhead pictures were always like blew my mind that there were that many people out there. And they come in from everywhere, all these other colleges and stuff. So it's cool.
That's the best. And then what about your favorite coach or teacher?
Favorite teacher was Miss Prof. She was always like the one.
For obvious reasons.
I mean, you're like a little high school kid, just leaning back.
I would always clean the erasers after class.
Another detention, Miss Prof. Come on.
Oh, darn.
So did you pass her class?
Yeah, that was actually one I did pass. Not all of them, but
that was not all of them.
I passed. I was not the greatest student in the world. Much better at tennis.
That is great, man.
Love it,
Brad. We really appreciate you doing this with us. And like I said, man, I think Steve does too. I feel like you should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean,
Yeah.
We'll do anything we can to try to help,
Hey,
let
thanks.
everybody know about that, because I'm not sure everybody does, but I'm glad that we're doing this podcast so everybody can see what kind of a career you had, because to me, it's one of the best careers in Anderson High School history for tennis. So,
Yeah.
but we really appreciate you catching up, and
Yeah,
it's
that's really
always
nice
great,
of you. Thanks.
always
Yeah,
great talking to you.
definitely.
Always great talking to you, and we got to keep in touch so when you do come in Cincinnati, we can go have a couple adult beverages, and we can talk about this party again.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely hit a Bearcat game or something.
That would be good. So okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So for
Okay.
Fred Krase, Dan Albers, and Steve Ellis, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll guys catch you next week.